In late 1943, a train carrying German prisoners of war pulled into the small town of Mexia, Texas. For the men of the Afrika Korps captured in the North African desert, this was a moment of profound uncertainty. They had been taught that America was a nation of decadent capitalists, a fragile society that would crumble under pressure. They expected to see a country on its knees, weakened by war. What they were about to witness would shatter every piece of propaganda they had ever been fed. They arrived not in cattle cars, but in comfortable Pullman passenger trains. Stunned, they watched the American landscape unfold. Through the windows, they didn't see a nation struggling. They saw a continent brimming with impossible power. One prisoner wrote in his diary, "Is this the country we are at war with?" The sheer scale of it all was overwhelming. The endless web of railway lines, the cities glowing with electricity at night, a luxury long gone back in war-torn Germany. They saw sprawling rail yards where freight trains, miles long, moved with clockwork precision, carrying the raw materials of a nation fully mobilized for war. This was the arsenal of democracy in motion. At ports, they saw Liberty ships being assembled at a pace that defied belief. Shipyards like those of Henry J. Kaiser were launching a new vessel every few days. The record? One ship from keel to launch in just 4 days and 15 hours. A total of over 2,700 were built. They passed the colossal Ford River Rouge complex and saw the legendary Willow Run factory, a plant so vast it produced a B-24 Liberator bomber every hour at its peak. This wasn't just industry. It was a symphony of production on a scale the world had never seen. One officer admitted, "How can we beat a country that can build all this and still has the time to build a prisoner of war camp like this?" Life inside the 500 camps scattered across America was another shock. Instead of brutality, they found order and humanity. They were fed well, often eating better than American civilians due to military rations. They received proper medical and dental care. At Christmas, they were astonished to receive packages from the YMCA filled with small comforts. This humane treatment began to slowly dismantle the Nazi ideology that was built on cruelty and dominance. The prisoners, totaling over 370,000, even contributed to the American war effort, providing 14 million man-days of labor in agriculture and industry, replacing American men who were fighting overseas. But the most powerful transformation was happening in their minds. The U.S. military launched a massive secret re-education program. They discovered that a startling number of German prisoners were barely literate. So they started with the basics, reading and writing. Soon, they were offering high school and even university-level courses taught by German-speaking professors. They published a special German-language newspaper, Der Ruf, The Call, which offered an uncensored view of the world and planted the seeds of democratic thought. For the first time, these men were encouraged to think for themselves, to debate, and to question the doctrines that had led them into a disastrous war. As the war turned against Germany, particularly after the Normandy landings, the prisoners' perspective shifted dramatically. They saw the footage, read the reports, and understood the inevitable outcome. Their loyalty to a failing regime crumbled, replaced by a growing appreciation for the American model of democracy and prosperity. They began to plan not for a return to the past, but for a new future. They were men who had seen the power of democracy and free enterprise firsthand. These former prisoners, once instruments of tyranny, became some of the most crucial figures in the reconstruction of West Germany. They were the builders, the politicians, the educators, and the business leaders who championed the new democratic constitution and embraced the Marshall Plan. They had left Germany as soldiers of the Third Reich, but they returned as unintentional missionaries for the Atlantic Alliance. Their journey through the heart of the arsenal of democracy had not only defeated their army, but had won their minds, helping to build a lasting peace from the ashes of war. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. We'll see you in the next one.